Debby Montgomery Johnson, your host of Stand Up and Speak Up, a show that is about each and every one of us. Many of us have something we're hiding, something we are ashamed of, something that through no fault of our own or through our own making we keep hidden, and that in turn keeps us hidden from each other and the world. Good people go through terrible situations. Wise people know when and how to let it go. Everything that happens to us helps us grow. And while it may be hard to see it right away, the most important thing to do is to change your perception about your circumstances. Stand Up and Speak Up features ordinary people just like you and me who've been through extraordinary times and then found the courage to step out from behind their smiles and speak up about their experiences and the lessons gleaned from them. And I want to welcome you guys today. It's a hot day in South Florida, but we've got one hot topic and a great guest. And I know that if you're on the show right now, you've seen the advertisements that I have the face of military romance scams on my show today, and I know he doesn't want to be known by that. But I want to welcome my friend Colonel Bryan Denny. Welcome from Virginia, Bryan.
Thanks, Debbie. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm really excited that you're here. I'm going to tell people that you're retired from the Army now, full colonel. Thank you so much for your service.
No, thank you. I often tell people I had the best job in the world. I worked for Americans for 26 years and loved it. Some days were certainly better than others, but I always found working with young men and women a very rewarding experience, and loved it. Everything else is great.
As a former Air Force officer and a mother of an Army pilot and a Marine Corps pilot, and daughter-in-laws and everything else, I've already got goosebumps because when I first met you and found out that you were a former Army, I think we talked more about our military service than we did about why we were on the Mel Robbins Show.
I think so, and I would also say thank you for your service as well. Much appreciated.
Well, it's my pleasure, and this topic today is really important to me. Not because you and I have met, but because of my kids and the situation that they're on active duty and so many of the women that I speak to that are being approached by men in uniform. So before we dive into the subject of online scammers and using military pictures, I just want to say, what does it take to serve in the military? What kind of a person does it take?
I think that's a good question. I think that, for me, it was easy, and I can't speak for everybody. I know the bulk of my Joes that I got in would say they were there for college money or wanting an experience. Some patriotic, just wanted to serve their country. I mean, it was easy for me. I grew up on a tobacco farm in North Carolina. I knew pretty clearly I did not want to spend the rest of my life on a tobacco farm. And I knew at a very early age I wanted to serve in the military. It's the only thing I've ever wanted to do was be a soldier. And I was lucky enough my mom and dad had set aside funds for me to go to college. I was going to be the first kid to go to a 4-year school. And I did that. I was enlisted in the National Guard while I was going to college. And then I was commissioned into the Army. And I came in with a 3-year commission or obligation. And I said, if I get in, they're going to have to kick me out. And so I stayed around for 26 years and loved it. It was, it was a dream for me to be able to serve. And it has put everything in my life in perspective because, having served overseas, 11 years in Europe, almost 4 years combat operations in the Middle East and Bosnia. You've been there. You've seen other places, other worlds, and what life is like, and it makes me just extremely grateful to be able to come back home to the United States and live in Virginia and have the things that I have. And I'm very proud of my service. I'm very proud of every young man and woman that goes out and serves, be it for 3 years or 30. It's all important in terms of keeping us safe and protecting our national interests. So I'm very appreciative of all military folks, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, and what they do to keep us safe.
Well, as you were talking about where you've been, I just was getting these tinges of, oh my gosh, I've been there, because we lived in Germany. I served in Wiesbaden. My husband was in Bosnia. My boys have been overseas across the pond and multiple times in the desert. One of them is there right now. telling me it's very hot there. And
it's hot, but I would always tell people, when we were in the Middle East, it's 120. I'm like, it's hot, yes, but it's not Tobacco Field, North Carolina, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in July hot. It's not that hot yet. So, it's all about metrics, right? So, and about a perspective. Again, I'm very lucky. I live near my folks now, still back on the farm, and love to go home and visit. But, I think probably I love to go home and visit and spend time with my family simply because, one of the big reasons is I got to go off and do what I wanted to do and serve, and they were very supportive and encouraging in that regard. So, it makes going home now to the farm just that much more rewarding.
Well, and I went to college in North Carolina, and it wasn't 112 in Chapel Hill, but it's beautiful. And and I'm really grateful that you went to see your folks. My mom and dad are 85 and 90, and they live nearby me, and I've been able to spend a lot of time with them. So it really had me going the other day, though. I was trying to get a hold of you, and you were really ignoring me. And then I was talking to Kathy. She said, no, he's with his dad. He's going to disconnect. So thank you for doing that. It shows me, we all need to disconnect and get back to our roots and our parents.
Yeah, I realize it probably seems like I was ignoring you, and that may be true. I may have been a bit there. But, yeah, I took my family, my son, and we went down, wife and kids down to North Carolina, spent time with my dad, my mom, and I've got a 94-year-old grandmother. And, we are close enough. We can get down on a regular basis. And, as they say in the movie, there's no place like home. So I do enjoy going back and spending time on the farm. It's great. Love it.
So you are married and have a son. I think he's in college?
Yep, that's right. He is. That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So you have never been looking for love on a dating site? You personally?
No. I personally... I have said this a couple of times to people. I'm not on any dating site ever, but I know for a fact that I am on dozens and dozens and dozens of dating sites. My profile is, my pictures are. Me personally, I'm not on any dating site. So if someone thinks that they're talking to me or engaging me on a dating site, it's not me. It's clearly a scam right away.
Okay, and we'll talk about that because your wife wouldn't be happy if you were on a dating site.
No, that's a fact. I mean, I picked one kind of medium to fight this in, and that's Facebook, because I was using Facebook a lot to stay in touch with soldiers and people that I served with. But, yeah, that was the extent of it. I mean, I'm not on any dating sites. Yeah, okay. That draws a lot of unfavorable responses from the spouse.
And I always maintain that if you are on a dating site, you don't need to put that you're a widow or that you're divorced, because if you're on the site, you should be single.
Correct. Yeah, it makes complete sense. Yes, right.
Should be. Okay. So going to back when you first found out that you were on a dating site, how did you find that out?
So I had been out of the Army for just a couple of months, and I was on LinkedIn. I've been on LinkedIn updating my profile and, looking for jobs and this kind of thing. And someone reached out and said, hey, you're Bryan Denny. I'd like to talk with you. And I was pretty naive at the time, had no idea this was possible. And I said, sure. I thought it was probably about a job. And I said, hey, here's my phone number. Give me a call. And a lady gave me a call, and she was from Canada. And she said, hey, you and I have been talking the past few months. I said, no, I don't think so. And she said, yeah, we've been talking. So I'm going to send you some pictures. And she sent me pictures that were obviously of me. Yep, that's me, but we haven't been having a conversation. So you're in Bosnia, you're in the Army, you're in Syria, you're in the Army, and you're coming home in a few weeks. I'm like, no. I said, I've never served in Syria. I did retire the Army. She said, well, I'm going to send you something else. And she sent me a plane ticket that showed where I was flying into Montreal, Canada. And my name was on it. I had a passport picture, and I said, yeah, this is not me. I don't know who this is, but you're not talking to me. And And it's kind of chilling. It's unnerving. You don't know exactly what's going on, what just happened, why is this happening, and she kind of sorted out, and we kind of talked about it, that she'd been talking to somebody that scammed her, and she said, go on Facebook and just type your name in the search bar, and I did, and there were double digits of profiles using my picture, the same exact picture in multiple sites, same name, same spelling. And I'm like, this is just crazy. And you start to wonder about what else in your life you've lost control of, your finances, and this kind of thing. But as it turns out for me, it was just at that time about 12 pictures that were being used, and to establish these fake sites to take advantage of people.
Where were the pictures first found? Had you put them on social media?
So a couple were, you could just search my name in Google, and a couple were Department of the Army still photos from deployments and this kind of thing. Having not necessarily a high-profile job, but I was commanding an infantry battalion in Afghanistan. You get pictures taken of you, and they show up in pictures, and a couple of pictures out of Stars and Stripes and this kind of thing. And that's all online, and you could kind of easily get at those. And then a couple were from my Facebook page that I think a friend of a friend had kind of had a scammer on their page, kind of came in, got a couple of photographs and this kind of thing. So, so it was a little bit of a mix of both. Anybody could have had access to, and then someone took off my Facebook page.
So if you've gone to Washington and you talked to DoD, Department of the Army too, what are they telling you, and what are they trying to do to protect us? Because this is a huge problem. Right.
So it was funny. Probably a typical response was from the Pentagon. So we sat and talked with the folks in the Pentagon who were kind of working this issue, and it's their public affairs office, and which, and I get it. They're trying to tell the story of thousands and thousands of great soldiers every day and what they're doing for the country, and this is a nuisance. They acknowledge that this is a problem, that military people are widely used in this kind of scam. They said they have retired people, general officers calling them and saying, hey, this is happening. I need you to get rid of this, make this go away. And they're like, it's just not that easy. It's not that easy to make this stop. In fact, it's impossible to really make it stop without the cooperation of social media giants like Facebook, and I'll touch on that in a second. But they said, yeah, we've got somebody that goes in every Monday morning and scrolls through Facebook, Instagram, whatever, looking for like the chief of the United States Army, General Milley's at the time account to make sure there are no accounts. And I'm like, this is Wednesday, and I Googled up, on Facebook, I pulled up, 6 fake accounts using the Chief Staff of the United States Army's picture right off the bat. I'm like, so if you've got somebody doing it every Monday, they're not doing a very good job, because if Facebook can't protect the senior guy in the United States military, United States Army, then how are they working to protect anybody else? And the reality is they're not. It's just not happening. So that was kind of telling that they really don't have a mechanism for scanning and deleting these, other than a guy or gal going in and kind of doing it manually, and then they don't get any feedback from Facebook. They said they've talked to Facebook, and they quickly wanted to know, what did they tell us? My partner Kathy and I, when we went in, and they're like, yep, it's our system is very reactive. You have to report, and then once we report, we take action. But I think you've seen the stats. It's pretty abysmal what they actually respond to and delete. After that we report as being a fake profile. So. And Facebook has probably one of the better percentage rates of eliminating fake profiles, but it's still, less than 50%.
Well, and it's 1 down, 10 up. So
yeah, exactly right. So it's a never-ending. You don't really. It's like trying to stop water through a dike. I mean, it's working a little bit, but without them being actively involved and taking interest in eliminating the fake accounts, it doesn't really go anywhere.
So what do you
there
tell?
Are mechanisms that can make it easier.
What do you tell men and women when they are approached by someone on Facebook or one of the dating sites that is actually in a military uniform? What would you tell them right off the bat?
I would say, one, don't put pictures of yourself on uniform on dating sites.
Is that allowed anyway?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's anything illegal about it. But I would just, I have learned that anything you put on the computer, on the internet, is fair game for scammers. I mean, we've talked about it. I've done a couple of video conferences where I talk to people, and we talked about this issue, and scammers would then, and that would be uploaded and posted on an anti-scam site, and the scammers would take the video and just do voiceover, and it would be choppy, and it would not be very good, but they could all easily justify that by saying, yes, I'm in some part of the world with bad internet connection, and I'm sorry that it's choppy or whatever. I mean, there's ways to explain that because the quality is not very good. And one of the first times that Kathy and I went to D.C. And did an interview, we took a couple of pictures in front of the Capitol building and put that on the Advocating Against Romance Scammers site that she runs. And, those pictures were taken off that site and used by scammers. So, I mean, anything you put on, be it in uniform or out of, is fair game for scammers to use to, again, take advantage of people. And you just got to know that going in, those pictures are going to be used to hurt people if you're not careful.
And I always thought that there might have been a DoD policy. I mean, I tell a lot of people that I know my kids aren't really, cannot be on a public page in a uniform, and they're very careful about what they put on their. Some of them don't even have social profiles anymore. They've really clamped down. And my daughter-in-law works with a lot of young Marines, and they are on them all the time. Be careful what you're putting on social media. Do not put pictures of you in military uniforms. And it's just tough because we're so social, and especially now in this time of social distancing, and we're looking for companions. We're looking for friends that we think and trust. I was talking to someone yesterday about how that stranger danger we have as kids goes away when we get older. And we think that the person, I mean, I'm actually looking at you right now, but when you're on Facebook, we're looking at a picture, and we're thinking that person is real. And many, many times, most times, they're probably not real. But perceived reality is greater than reality sometimes.
And as Kathy and I have kind of talked through and come up with, a saying, you don't really know the people you only know online. I mean, do you really know the voice at the end, who's typing that text out? And if anything, if I've learned anything over the course of the last 3 years is you don't know unless you're looking eyeball to eyeball with somebody and having a conversation with them. You can't say, I'm sure this is who I'm talking to. And that person is who they say they are or claim to be. It gets very tough. And, you're right. I've heard, don't put military pictures up or pictures of yourself in uniform. I do. I did all the time because I'm pretty proud of my service and, taking pictures of myself and my guys with my troopers out in Europe and then downrange. Those pictures all the time, and I thought, okay, I need to kind of screen these for OPSEC to make sure I'm not saying anything necessarily about where we are, what we're doing, or this kind of thing. But, I never realized or never thought that, hey, somebody's going to take these pictures and put them on a dating site and kind of spin a story about a soldier to take advantage of people. That never occurred to me. I mean, I did not see that as a possible kind of threat. Didn't see that. No.
Well, I'm just thinking about it. We put pictures up for Veterans Day and Memorial Day and all sorts of veterans things. It's unfortunate that we can't even do that and trust that they're going to be safe.
Right. That's right. It just never occurred to me that people would take images, and it only takes one. I mean, if you look at the images that are used most often, it's a picture of me in a dress uniform, and sometimes that's it. And then there are pictures of me and my son, and he's got his Boy Scout uniform on, and me and my son, on the farm in North Carolina with the horses. And from there, from 3 pictures, you can spin a pretty good story about, a soldier, down range in Syria, supporting a humanitarian mission. My son's in boarding school in Kentucky near our farm. And you can go and you can craft a pretty good lie out of all that. Next thing you know, he's injured in a horse riding accident in boarding school, and I need money to help pay some medical bills, but I can't access my money because I'm forward deployed in Syria. So what if I could borrow $500? That'd be great. And then and it kind of goes from there. And they'll reach out and canvass 100 women with that, and of those, they may get 15 responses. Of those 15, maybe 2 will send them $500, and that's a good day's work right there.
So does the military pay for your transportation? I mean, I hear people say, I need money for leave, I need money for medical, I need money for this. If they're in the military, do they need that?
No, they don't. And that's so most people that have ever served quickly see through this thing. Like, I've heard, I've been shot, I need money for better medicine, I need to be sent back to the hospital, but the Army doesn't have money to send me. I mean, none of that's true. I mean, again, from your service and from your kid's service that it just doesn't happen that way. We are well taken care of. If we're hurt, the Army takes care of us. We don't need money we don't need you to send medicine. We don't need you to send money so we can fly back to a better hospital. None of that's true. And I see this a lot, which didn't occur to me, that the scammers will use some very official-looking verbiage, make up some official-looking letterhead, and I understand, Lieutenant Colonel or Colonel Denny is going on R&R leave. I need you to verify that this will be his leave address. Could you please sign this to verify and provide this information about yourself? Okay, and so they won't ask for any money. There's a verification, and it looks official, and that's just one more thing that adds credibility to the scammer's story that, my chain of command, I know, reached out to you, confirmed that I was going to be spending time with you over my leave period. Could you send $1,200 so I can get a plane ticket, and I'll fly back, and we'll have leave at your place and, talk about our future together and look at a down payment on a house and this kind of thing. And then, he doesn't get to go because, the base was rocketed or, something like that, or some excuse comes up, missions are going on, and can't talk about it because it's in a very secretive kind of environment, and this kind of thing. And that's how you just kind of, start with little things, help build your credibility. A lot of the Facebook profiles I see now don't get fully developed because, they'll meet you on Facebook and then quickly try to shutter you into a private email so they can just talk to you one-on-one. So it's not public, because typically if I see one of the fake profiles that has a lot of friends to it, we'll message those people and say, hey, this guy's a scammer, just trying to get money from you. I'm going to report his profile and have him deleted, this kind of thing. So,
well, it's interesting. Military uniforms typically have your names on them. And I've seen people that have, I think this is in one of the articles that I saw about you, where someone thought your name was Joe Schmo or whatever the names are, and I'll have you tell me. But then someone pointed out to them, look, his uniform says Denny. Yeah. It's just an obvious thing that we're not looking for. So what are the the tells when they're looking at a uniform to tell if you're true, if you're real or not? And what have been some of the names that people have used for your profiles?
I've been Scott Morgan, Scott Denny. I've been Ricky Sanchez. I've been Ricky Bobby. I've been, a dozen different names, and some, quite honestly, you'd look and go, that's probably not a real name for that guy. And that's how Kathy Waters out in California and I linked up. A friend of her mother's, and I won't tell her story. I think you're going to have her on at some point. Was being. I
think she's actually listening right now. We'll have her talk in a minute.
I'm sure she is. And a friend of her mother's was being scammed, and Kathy's like, okay, this all sounds like too good to be true, maybe unbelievable. And she looked at my uniform, and it had my name on it, and it's like, that's not the right guy. And she ended up finding me. And reaching out and contacting me through LinkedIn. But it is, the fake profiles that use my name, and there are fewer of those because they were easy to find and report for me. Now, because they use so many different names, it's harder to find them, and we really are relying upon people to kind of go, hey, I'm talking to this guy. What do you think? And it's like, yep, that's my picture. Or no, it's not my picture, but likelihood of this being a real thing is fairly slim. So, we can kind of weigh in on those discussions.
But you and Kathy deal a lot with Facebook. Why has Facebook not done a better job with eliminating the duplicates or having some sort of facial recognition it's obvious when we're looking at your pictures that they're being used over and over. Why can't they stop it, or why won't they stop it? In your opinion.
Okay, so this is my opinion, but I would say, they, it's not in their best interest. It's really not in their interest to do that. They're a business and they're looking to make money, and the more money that they have to spend policing up their site, their bulletin board, that's money away from the stockholders. They're not able to pay out as much. They're not making as much if they're having to spend money in policing up their profile. So that's one issue. The second is, it kind of goes to their credibility. They don't want to acknowledge that there's so many fake profiles. They don't want to acknowledge that human trafficking takes place on their site. They don't want to acknowledge that, a double-digit percentage of their sites are probably just fake profiles looking to take advantage. So there's that. And then they don't want to be the police of social media. They don't want to be the guys that go, hey, this is wrong. They'll say it's free speech, but clearly in their in their code of conduct and their standards that they publicize and kind of wave in your face and use to either remove posts that they don't agree with as an organization, but they'll wave their community standards in your face and say, this violates what we think is right. Yet there are hundreds of sites online right now that are clearly meant to sell IDs, sell the backstory, sell the information on how do you do this, how do you get going, and those get reported, and they don't get taken down because they cite, okay, this is really a free speech issue, and we don't want to weigh in on that. It's obvious what it is, but to get them to take action is you got to have. Kathy and I were lucky to be able to develop a relationship to a degree, and where they did respond and they would take down some sites, but still, it wasn't always 100% successful. In fact, it was more like 50% successful in doing that. And I guess lastly, I would say they don't do it because they don't police themselves because they don't have to. Regulation 230 kind of says, hey, it's a get out of jail free card, and social media giants can do whatever they want and they're not liable. They've created the internet. They've created this bulletin board that you can put things on, but they're not liable for anything that gets put on it. And they kind of cling to that, and unless that is changed, they really can operate with impunity. And they don't have to do anything. You don't have to take action. You can do whatever you want to on Facebook, on a site like Facebook. Google Hangouts is no better. 1,000 dating sites out there, they're all the same. You can do whatever you want, put whatever you want on the internet, and the guys that create the site just aren't liable. You can't.
Well, I think part of it too is that once someone's been victimized, they don't want to speak up, and so the numbers aren't being reported. Right. And I swear, if Jeff Bezos, but Zuckerberg, or Mandy Ginsburg, if one of their mothers was taken, they might take it seriously. But me, they don't know who I am.
It would have to be personal. I've said this, it would have to be very personal for them to get involved in it. But quite frankly, the interest level is just not that high to police themselves up. And you're right. This is one of those crimes that's underreported because people are embarrassed by it. I mean, I never lost any money. My pictures were used to take advantage of people, and that was embarrassing enough for me that I didn't talk about it. I didn't tell anybody about this. That was this kind of thing that was happening for about a year because it's embarrassing. I mean, I don't want to be known as this guy, and I definitely don't want. I spent my most of my adult life serving to take care of people and to fight for people who couldn't fight for themselves. And now, at the end of all that, my pictures are being used to hurt people, and that's not a great thing. The guys that I finally talked to about this, like, wow, that's pretty flattering, that this is happening. And I'm like, really? And they're like, yeah, that's got to suck. I'm like, it does suck. It's you're the bearer of bad news. I mean, I can look and I'll get, a dozen messages a week on Messenger from people I don't know, and they're looking for confirmation that, at this point they're looking for confirmation that, yeah, they've been scammed and, they've been hurt, and sometimes they don't know. And you're kind of like the bearer of bad news over and over and over for people, telling them, I'm sorry this happened to you, and this kind of thing. And it just, it is not, it's not fun.
It's interesting for me that, when you and I met on the Mel Robbins Show, I mean, I'm one side of the scam, and I was Air Force intelligence and all that, so never should have been scammed. You're on the other side of the scam, which people don't talk about often, and that's the impersonation, and your identity has been stolen. And it's just such a shame that it happens to good people. I never thought I would be the voice of the survivor. And, I was embarrassed like you. I didn't talk about it for a year. And once I did, though, and I saw how important it was to tell the story, that's why I'm telling your story, because it's important for people to see that you are a person. Your picture has been used and abused by people who don't care about us. And, I was watching that show this morning. It was an ABC News in-depth about Meet the Scammers. And they actually interviewed the scammers, and these are young boys, young men in Nigeria, Ghana, around the world. They don't care. They figure we owe them something, and they're going to get it. And they don't care who they hurt. And they're hurting you by taking your pictures, or hurting me because they broke my heart. And the word's not getting out in a big enough way. So how can we get it out in a bigger way, Bryan? How can we make a difference?
Yeah, I think that doing interviews, talking about it, being upfront about it, that's probably the most significant thing. I mean, Kathy and I talked about what we could do, and we kind of came about this in like a three-pronged kind of attack. One, it was to provide information, talk to people, spread the word, do as many podcasts, publications, interviews, anything we could do to tell people, hey, this is a real thing, this is a real crime. This is organized crime, and it's happening, and so people need to know that this is going on. And by spreading the word and educating people, hopefully fewer and fewer people would be hurt by this. And two, try to bring about change through regulation and what the social media giants are actually held accountable for. As I said, Facebook, is by far the largest, and it's the only one of the social media platforms I ever really used or was on. And so, my goal wasn't to, hey, we're going to shut down Facebook. No, quite frankly, I want to make Facebook a better place. And so we really wanted to have a dialogue and kind of show them, hey, this is what we see. What do you guys see, and what are you doing about it? And as we've kind of talked about, not much has changed. They haven't done much. This is what they have done. Since we've been talking to them, they opened up Facebook Marketplace, which took time and resources to develop and get that going. They opened up a dating site on Facebook. I mean, they've done a lot of things to the platform, not one of which has made it a safer place for people to communicate. And so, you always got to look at what they say, are priorities, and then watch where the money goes. Money tells you where the real priorities are. And from my perspective, policing up their own platform isn't a priority yet. And it won't be a priority until there's some way to hold them accountable. And so that's Kathy and I kind of work on that. And the third piece of this is to try to bring about, some justice and collecting stories, accounts, what data we can from the people that are operating the scams, and provide that to the right authorities that they can reach out, government to government, and maybe work towards prosecuting the people that are doing this kind of thing. My goal was if we could eliminate a lot of small fish that kind of do this, the government could concentrate on bigger fish and with their resources. And, Kathy and I have probably made it more difficult, I would like to think, by reporting so many fake profiles. But quite frankly, if the social media site don't remove them, don't take them down. Don't take down the Yahoo Boy accounts that really provide the information on how to do this. Then they're not, quite frankly, they're not supporting the fight against these guys. And you can tell by my tone that, I don't think they really have.
Right. So what do you tell somebody whose picture's been used? How do they report it, or how do they go about stopping it? Or, obviously they can't in a big way, but what do you tell them?
Yeah. Well, I tell people that, and it's a lot of guys, and I know guys that this has happened to. I'm like, well, it's easy to walk away and not do anything, but quite frankly, that's not the right thing to do, and it's against our nature. And most of the guys I know are military folks that have done this and are not looking to turn their back on a fight. But I said, go into the search bar on whatever site you're on and search your name and see what comes up. And if it's a fake profile, you have an obligation to report that and try to get it taken down. And if you just work to get the ones you can identify taken down, if everybody does that piece, then you're doing something. And you're generating data points that someone in Facebook or wherever has to respond to. Quite frankly, I filled out, I reported thousands upon thousands of profiles on Facebook, and I don't think a human being has actually ever looked at any one of those. I think it's all computer-generated algorithms. I used to give out these long, like, hey, this is who I am, this is what's going on, and I realized whatever I write doesn't matter one way or the other. It makes no difference. It'll come back very arbitrarily. Yep, we deleted this site because it goes against community standards. Or no, we didn't find that it went against community standards because, whatever facial recognition software they're using, didn't kind of determine it was a threat. So, and Kathy will tell you that we've had conversations with them where we said, hey, are you sure that, what's up with your facial recognition software? And they would say, well, anytime somebody modifies, crops, shades the picture, it doesn't pick it up. Their software doesn't pick that up. So that's why the same pictures get used repeatedly. But Kathy built like 15 sites using the same image. She cropped it, she shaded it, she did a number of different things to it, and every time the software, the program said, yeah, that's Bryan Denny, and it knew who I was. It would suggest a number of friends, none of which I knew. They were all from Nigeria, and it's like, seriously, it has changed my whole my whole demographic in terms of who I communicate with. Because the machine now thinks, oh, I'm Bryan Denny, and I'm obviously from Nigeria because most of the people that use my images are from there. So
absolutely. Well, you've got lots of friends over there.
Apparently, I'm supporting a village or two, I reckon.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah, it is a mega community and economic boom over there, and it is such a shame. And every time I hear your story, I feel so bad. I mean, I forget my story when I hear your story because, it's just the whole thing is just unfortunate. So one last thing before we bring in, if people have questions that they want to ask. When you're talking to women that have been duped by someone impersonating you, what do you tell them, how do they move forward? I mean, my scammer confessed, and I saw him in person. That rarely happens. I don't know who the guy is that I had fallen in love with the pictures, but I saw the real guy from Nigeria. When women see you, at least they have a face now to the picture. But how do they disconnect their heart from you because you're such a good guy?
Sure. Well, I appreciate that. My family, helps me stay connected and right where I'm supposed to be. But I would say, for people that have gone through this, and you don't, I get a number of emotions that come up, like they're ashamed and the like. But there's no need to be. This happens to people, all walks of life, all education levels. It only makes you one thing, and that's very human. And as humans, we're all subject to, to be preyed upon by people who want to prey upon us. And I would just say, you've got to, one, report it, report that this happened. Don't just fade off and, chalk it up to, well, that's one on me. No, that's one, for everyone that doesn't get reported, I kind of feel like it just fuels the fire, because when you walk into someone's office in D.C., one of the elected representatives, and you start talking about this, and you go, have you ever heard of this? And like, no, this doesn't affect my district. This doesn't affect my state. And we're quick to say, well, according to just Googling up some stats, it happened a lot in your state, and you just don't know about it. And this is a revenue that your state lost because people sent money overseas, and you can to scammers, and you can imagine what the real percentage is based on the fact that maybe only 10% of these things get reported. So I would encourage people to that this happens to. One, don't be embarrassed. Know that you're not alone. Know that this happens to a number of people. Report it. And then there are some sites, again, going back to Facebook, where you can, like ours, advocating against romance scammers, and you can go and find somebody to talk to, share your story. I find that helps people quite a bit, just to have a dialogue. Know that, yeah, this happened to me, but, it happens to a lot of people. I'm no different, and I can talk about what they experience and kind of get the data captured there.
And what we need for them to understand is that you are not the scammer. You are a victim. And so I've seen many victims who are scam baiting, and they're haters, and they're going after that guy in the picture, and that's a crime. Going against you would be stalking or bullying or something. So you are also a victim. They need to understand that the guys in the pictures and the women are victims also, and survivors. I hate the word victim. We are survivors of something horrible.
Well, in my personal experience, I had one lady early on that kind of held me accountable for it. It's like, why is it the Pentagon doing more? And I said the same thing. They're trying to tell the story of over, 400,000 great men and women every day. What would you have them do? And she said, well, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you involved in this? I'm like, you found me because I am involved in this. You found me because I came out and spoke out against this. I'm like, what more do you want me to do? She's like, well, you're lucky. Someday you're going to be old and your pictures won't be as good. I'm like, the pictures are the pictures. They don't change. There's, but I understand. I mean, I wasn't hostile towards her or mad at her. I mean, she had lost a bit of money, and more importantly, from my perspective, she had her feelings, really toyed with emotionally. She was very hurt. She'd been in a relationship, I want to say that was in excess of a year, and you know what that's like, and she was going to have a hard time recovering from this. This was not something that she was going to easily get over, and
no, it's devastating. It changes your life, and if you don't realize that this happens to good people, smart people, all the time, and that it was a perfect storm for us. That you have to learn from what happened and move forward, and that's what I say too. You have to talk it out. You got to forgive yourself, and then move on, because it's part of your life now. But by not talking about it, we're letting it happen to somebody else.
I agree with that. That's right. That's right.
So anyway, I could talk to you forever. We are going to open up the meeting. We have people online. If they want to come up and ask a question, I'm going to put the question and answers period on here. You just have to hit *6 if you would like to come on. Hang on a minute. I didn't want to end the call. Okay. So we're going to continue on. Bryan, I know you work with Kathy Waters. I actually see her on the line. I don't know if she's going to come on. How do people get a hold of you if they would like to follow up with you?
So it's pretty easy to reach out to Kathy or me through our website, and I think you've got that posted. We are on Facebook, which is a pretty good way to contact us, and they know that. We advertise that with them all the time. But it's pretty easy, and I would ask if you've got a story to tell, come online and use that to kind of tell that story, and that platform to say what happened and share your experience. Kathy has a full-time job, and so do I. And we both have families, so we are decisively engaged in living our lives as well. So Kathy, I'm not signing her up. She doesn't run a hotline where she's available 24/7. But we do want to hear from you if you've got something to share or tell.
Well, there are helplines, and I was on a call yesterday in Washington, D.C. with several helplines that are not specifically for romance scams, but they're for fraud in general, and they can get you to somebody. And it's really important. And I work with an organization called SCARS, which is the Society for Citizens Against Relationship Scams, and we do a lot like you do. We're mostly a victim support. We're doing different things, but I think what we need to all do is put our egos behind us. Anybody in this business, put your ego behind you and work together, because the world is so big and this is happening in so many places and people aren't hearing us. I mean, I had a woman call me the other day, a woman that's a friend from a few years ago, and she had been groomed over the last 6 months, not because she had money, but because she had a bank account and they used her as a money mule for laundering money. And that's something I don't think that's really talked about either. And, our bank accounts are ours. They're not to give to somebody else. iTunes cards are not to be bought for somebody else. And, your son must see this. And I would say, that's absolutely, we don't talk about that. But some people get involved in this and end up being mules to either knowingly or unknowingly help move money for the scammers. And that happens. Again, sometimes they know what's going on, and sometimes they don't. And I'm convinced sometimes that they do it for a cut. But it happens, and these are people right here in the United States that help support this. It does happen. And it's funny. I'm lucky. My son not interested in social media at all. I established a Facebook account because we both do a lot of living history and travel through Europe during living history. And I established a site so he could kind of advertise that and show that for potential universities that he was looking at. They want to know what your Facebook account is and just kind of highlight his experience. And I had just set up his site. I mean, it was not up 10 minutes, and he was getting a friend request from somebody that I knew had been scammed. I had actually had to block because of the obsessive and constant contact. And it was a great way to teach him, these are, who do you want on your Facebook site, and who do you not want, and who do you know and who do you don't know. And I don't think he ever went back and looked at Facebook again after that discussion. But he sees this and knows at this point, he really knows it's a thing. He sees it and is leery of it. And I think I mentioned that Kathy and I are both running the Advocating Against Romance Scammers. And if you type that in, you'd find us on Facebook as well. And I agree with you. Putting your ego on the shelf. This is one fight, and it's good that we have a multi-pronged approach in this fight to bring attention to this. But it is one fight. We're all on the same team. At the end of the day, there's not one team that's going to be on the objective saying, "Yep, we did this," or "I did this." It is very much a we us kind of fight, and our goals are not mutually exclusive. So we all have to bear that in mind. Absolutely.
Same fight.
And I keep looking. I have gone onto YouTube and I've watched the shows you've been on, and I've watched the show that you and I were on, and it was funny because we were talking about the Mel Robbins Show. A friend of yours said, "Hey, I saw you on Mel Robbins," and again, and like this week, and we really were there in November, and someone else contacted me. So it's syndicated and it's showing at different times, which is so important because this is an international problem. It's not just here in the States; it's international, and it's something that I don't think we can stop, but we can certainly slow it down. I had a guest a couple weeks ago, someone that interviewed you. His name is Brett Johnson, and Brett is I tell him he's a brother by another mother, although Johnson's my married name. But extraordinary to hear the story from a former scammer, and to hear that scammers are really bright. They're not stupid. And they are so far ahead of us in what they can do and what they can't. Your take on Brett and what he's doing?
No, it was really good. No, he was. I appreciate the his background and on the other side of the line there, and then where he's kind of at now. And I was grateful for the opportunity to be on the show and work this through with him. And you're right. I mean, the people that are doing this are good at what they do. I mean, look at you're feeding your family by being able to manipulate and take advantage of people. You're feeding, fueling, funding your lifestyle by being able to manipulate and take advantage of people through the internet using just a keyboard and some pictures. I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, most people go out and have to work pretty hard at a job, toiling at something or doing something to make money. People are doing this, are working at taking advantage of you, working at taking your money simply by sitting in front of a keyboard, using a couple of photographs that they've stolen, a script that they may have purchased online, or maybe just making up that they know enough about, enough about the things that they're saying that their persona is doing. But this is a job for people. The scammers are smart. This is how they make money. This is not child's play. This is, although being, quite frankly, I think it's being, perpetuated by kids as well. But this is organized crime. The people that do this are thieves and crooks and criminals. They're adults, and this is a livelihood. So, and they're very smart and very good at what they do.
And they're trained in universities in Nigeria and over in Ghana, and they work as families. And, when I asked my scammer why he did it, he said, "Deb, you don't understand the economics over here. We have to make a living." And I'm like, make a living by not hurting somebody, because it's devastating. Yep.
And that's not their concern. I mean, your personal well-being, not a concern for them. A number of times this leads to very tragic consequences for the person that's been scammed, person that's been taken advantage of, where they take their life, and when they realize, at a stage in my life where I could not recoup the losses. I gave away everything. I gave away my savings. I mortgaged my house to send this person I was in love with money. I gave everything to that person, and then there's no recovering from that. And I've seen that a number of times, and it ends in tragedy. And for the person who's been scammed, but for the person who's done that, I mean, there's no repercussions other than they've got to find somebody else to pay their bills. I mean, there's no repercussions. You're able to walk away, and it's just that easy. So.
And they're not looking for $1 million payout. They're looking for $250 from 1 million people.
Yep.
So it's a
exactly
numbers
right.
game to them. And we're their clients. Yep. I heard this on a show today. We are their clients, and they feel like we owe them. We are not their love. And I think we just get caught up in the emotions and the endorphins and all that fun stuff, of looking at a picture and just falling in love with that picture. And I get just speechless sometimes when I think about all the people that they're hurting, and then that actually gives me the energy to start speaking up again, because like you, if we can stop one person from this happening to, or prevent it for one person, or help one person recover, that's important. So in your story, when I talk to women and they tell me they see a man in uniform, first thing right off the bat, I'm saying, yep, that's a scam. And I don't want anybody to get hurt because of a military person. I mean, we're too intimate with the military, and we put our lives into the military. And to have somebody take advantage of it, that stolen valor basically really irks me.
No, I'm with you. For all those reasons, that's exactly right.
Well, so going forward, Bryan, what are you going to be able to do to make a difference going forward? What do you want us to do?
Yeah, so I think, one, I would say my message is kind of consistent. If you see something that's too good to be true, it probably is. Never give money to strangers and people that you know online. You don't really know. And so you may be in a relationship or think you're in a relationship, but quite honestly, you've got to step back and ask yourself, if somebody knocked at your door and said, I need you to give me a $200 iTunes gift card or buy me a cell phone. Would you do that? If the answer is no, then you really need to examine the people that you only know online and kind of assess where you are with those people. Because there's a reason people can come up with excuses of why they're unable to video chat with you, unable to show you video and voice at the same time. And if you've seen a lot of that and experienced a lot of that, they're probably not talking to the person you think you're talking to. And if you have been scammed or think you have been scammed, report it. You need to say something. Share that story with people, and we can help you do that either through advocating against romance scammers or your site. I mean, you reach out and share that with somebody. So it's there's one thing to be just another statistic, but then there's a completely another thing to be, will this happen? And I'm not a statistic because no one knows it happened to me. I kept quiet about it. I didn't share it. By all means, be a statistic, report it, and let somebody know that this happened to you. And that's the only way, quite frankly, we'll ever have the leverage needed to have social media changed and some responsibility put on them for policing themselves. Only by showing the magnitude of the crime in terms of people hurt, and that unfortunately is expressed most often in dollars. That's the only way we'll ever impact this fight and have social media changed for the better.
Well, I thank you so much for speaking up. Excuse me. How does it make you feel to speak up now? I know it was embarrassing before, but how do you feel when you talk about this?
Well, it's I think it's a necessity. It needs to be done. It's not something that's going to go away by people sitting on their hands. You've got to talk about it, let people know that it's happening. Talk to your friends, family, loved ones, and let them know it's happening. So, I couldn't imagine staying silent and not doing anything. That's just not who I am. It's not. This is not a fight I wanted to be in, not a fight I chose, but it's a fight I found myself in, and, this is what you do when you're in a fight. You fight back.
Well, thank you for being the warrior in this one, and I'm sorry it happened to you. I'm sorry it happened to me, but, it happened for a reason, and that reason is because we're going to speak up and hopefully try to slow this down and maybe stop it, prevent it. So thank you so much, Bryan. I so appreciate your time. I want everybody to know that this episode has been sponsored by my company, benfocomplete.com, which is a vitamin supplement company that supports healthy and happy hands and feet and provides a vitamin supplement for diabetic neuropathy. But what I want people to know is that if any of you know anyone who has been a victim to fraud or scam, if you yourself have been or anybody in your family, we want you to report it. Report it to the FBI's IC3.gov. Report it to anyscam.com. Go to Bryan's website. Remember to join my Facebook group, which is Stand Up and Speak Up, for special information and for replays from this show and for other shows. We've had some extraordinary guests. It's up to us to speak up and stand up and speak up and get this message out to the world, because if we don't do it, the scammers go to the bank, and we don't want that. So, Bryan, thank you so much for what you and Kathy are doing and for spreading the word, and I wish you the very best with your mom and dad, and you're visiting with your families. Stay safe, and we shall be in touch again. So thank you, sir. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today.
Thank you.